Okay, so we all know the stereotypes. Men are the superficial, shallow ones, all they care about is looks, whereas women are the more highly evolved ones. They care about substance and personality. What I'm going to do in this video is share the results of a scientific study that proves that women do care about personality, but only if the man is good looking. Number one priority for women is physical attractiveness. What's interesting is that women themselves aren't even aware of their own preference. The study revealed a whole bunch of fascinating stuff. I'm going to share it all. The study is called The Importance of Physical Attractiveness to the Mate Choices of Women and Their Mothers. But first I want you to check out this footage because this woman is a rare find. She's self-aware enough to know that looks are extremely important to her and that that's often the distinguishing factor between a boyfriend as opposed to a boy who's just a friend. Listen closely to her answer.
Is it possible for an attractive man and an attractive woman to just be friends? No? Why is that?
Because I've been in that situation. Well, maybe for other people, I don't know, but I can only speak for myself.
Okay. Do you have many male friends?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
So it is possible?
Yeah, but like, we're different. We're different.
In how? What do you mean?
In like attractiveness.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can tell that she really didn't want to say it, and I can understand that. It's very socially uncomfortable. But I applaud her honesty because she says, yes, I have male friends, but the reason that they're just friends is the difference in attractiveness. Most of the women that we ask that question to just flat out deny it. Either they aren't aware of their own preferences, they're just in denial about it, or they are aware of it but would never speak it out loud. They would never admit it publicly. So this woman who just says it, she has my respect, and the science proves that she's not alone. So let's start discussing this study. In order to get participants, they put the call out to women, and they managed to find 80 daughters aged 15 to 29 and 61 mothers aged 37 to 61. They asked these women to rank the desirability of men based on photographs and personality description. The photographs were in 3 distinct categories. You had highly attractive men, moderately attractive men, and unattractive men. Likewise, the personality profiles were split into highly desirable, desirable, and just moderately desirable. They would mix and match these different personalities to the various pictures, and they would ask the daughters, which of these men would you like to date, and they asked the mothers, which of these men would be suitable dates for your daughters. So what happens when you put a handsome guy with a pretty average personality next to an ugly guy with a wonderful personality? The results were absolutely clear. Women chose the attractive man. It didn't matter that his personality was terrible. Physical appearance came first. Reading directly from the study, when attractiveness and personality characteristics are experimentally manipulated, obtaining a minimum level of physical attractiveness / avoiding unattractiveness seems to be a necessity for both women and their mothers. At another part of the study, both women and their mothers rated the attractive and moderately attractive targets as more desirable dating partners for themselves / their daughters versus the unattractive target. So you see, in order to be considered a legitimate dating prospect by women, you need to reach a minimal level of attractiveness. As long as you meet that minimum standard, that's when personality becomes more important. You might think that women would always go for the most attractive man, but that's actually not what the study showed. Maybe that's what men would do because we really like beautiful women. Looks are really important to us. But for women, it wasn't like that. After the minimum standard of attractiveness was met, that's when personality became the most important factor. So women do pay attention to personality traits, but only after a minimum level of physical attractiveness has been met. Again, reading directly from the study, the unattractive men were never rated more favorably than their more attractive counterparts, regardless of the trait profiles that they were assigned. This study had way more interesting stuff, and in the next part of the video, I'm going to go through some more results. But first, I want to tell you about my most recent Patreon exclusive video. It's about how to read signals from a woman if she's rejected your romantic advances, but she still wants to hang out all the time. She's still texting you constantly. Is she actually interested in pursuing something with you romantically, or is she just doing it for attention and an ego boost? This video was inspired by a question I received from one of my patrons. So if you have a question for me that you've always wanted me to do a video on, or you just want access to this video and a bunch of others, then go ahead and sign up at my Patreon. It's just $5 a month and you get access to all of my exclusive content. Now, some people might have predicted that because the daughters, the younger women, would actually be dating the man, Perhaps they're going to be more likely to be swayed by handsomeness, a guy who's physically attractive. But surely not the mothers who are choosing partners for their daughters. They've gotten a bit older, they're a lot more experienced. Surely by that stage of their life, they will have learned that personality is the most important thing. That's actually not what the results showed. It's very interesting. For both the daughters and the mothers, there was consistency across both groups. A minimum standard of physical attractiveness has to be met before personality becomes relevant in the consideration. However, there was one really interesting deviation from the mothers to the daughters in this study, and that was that mothers on the whole would rate all of the men as more attractive and more desirable than the daughters would. Reading directly from the study, instead, we found that mothers rated all men, regardless of attractiveness level, as more desirable mates for their daughters than the daughters did for themselves. That's a really funny one. I don't know exactly what's behind it. Perhaps they just are cougars and they think that all men, all young guys, regardless of attractiveness level, are pretty desirable, so that's why they're rating them higher. Or it could be that the mothers have got that kind of itch for grandchildren and they're just keen to see their daughters married off to anybody, and so they're a lot more keen to get their young daughters into relationships regardless of who the man is. I don't know the exact reason for that one, and it's quite interesting to speculate on, but the study doesn't actually provide a reason for that. It just reports the data. Now, this research is consistent with other studies that have been done in this exact same area. They all point to the exact same conclusion, that while women say that looks don't matter that much, that they pay very little attention to physical attractiveness, it actually is a strong influence on their mating choices. Reading directly from the study, although women believed that physical attractiveness was not as important as earning potential in a male partner, in experimental scenarios, women were strongly influenced by both men's physical attractiveness and their earning potential. Similarly, speed dating research shows that women's dating preferences are strongly impacted by men's physical attractiveness. What this study and others like it have proved is that there is a difference between men and women, but it's not that men care about looks and women don't. It's that men are honest about it, whereas women are in denial about their own preferences. The cultural myth that men care about looks, whereas women are above that sort of thing, is just nonsense. Men are just upfront and honest about it, or perhaps more likely, we're just not sophisticated enough to be able to hide it. Men like beautiful women. We can't hide that. We look at beautiful women. We're kinder to beautiful women. Yeah, we like a good personality. That's really, really important, of course. But if it comes attached to a pretty face and a beautiful body, that's the gold standard. Women are exactly the same. They want a handsome boyfriend. It's just that they're not going to tell you how important physical attractiveness is to them, even though the science definitively proves that it is the #1 priority. Nothing else really matters until that minimum standard of physical attractiveness is met. So what's the explanation here? Why do women care so much about looks? Here's what the study says. Physical attractiveness may have such a powerful effect on our real-life mate preferences because we associate attractiveness with other positive characteristics, such as better personalities or life experiences. This is what is called the halo effect, where we judge somebody to have positive personality characteristics based on their physical appearance. I did another video on the halo effect. If you haven't seen that yet, I'll put a link in the description box below. Here's another excerpt from the study. The current study also suggests that this association between attractiveness and positive traits is so strong that these positive expectations may override impressions of the traits actually ascribed to the individuals. What this means is that when women see an attractive man, and they hear, either through friends or written on the study, as it was in this case, that he has a bad personality, they're not likely to believe it because their life experience or their expectations are that good-looking people tend to have more positive personalities. So even if the explicit facts say the opposite, they're likely to ignore that and just go with their instinct. So in the end, it's difficult to say why women have this preference for an attractive man. Why do they care about whether or not he's handsome? Is it because they just enjoy the pure aesthetic pleasure of staring at a beautiful body and a handsome face? That's possible, but it's also possible that it comes down to personality after all. It could be that they just have a strong unconscious bias against ugly men because they believe that he's likely to have a negative personality. And of course, the flip side of that, they see an attractive man and they believe unconsciously that he's likely to have a positive personality. I think that this one is difficult to prove one way or the other, but the halo effect is absolutely a real documented phenomena, and I think that it would be foolish to underestimate its influence. The reason why this is important is because if it is ultimately the halo effect that's causing women to reject ugly men because they expect them to have negative personalities, well then that gives hope to all of the ugly guys, because the only reason they're getting rejected is because of women's expectations that they're going to be an asshole or a dickhead, whatever it might be. If you can actually demonstrate to women that yes, I might be ugly, but I have a really good personality, then perhaps it's not going to matter so much. This is actually what the PUA community has been saying for years. Yes, you might be ugly and that's a bit of a disadvantage, but any guy with the right game can be successful with women. I honestly don't know if that's true. I suspect that it probably is true, but I have no way of proving it. What I do know is this: even if you are ugly, there is no point feeling sorry for yourself. Yes, let me validate you, you are at a disadvantage, no doubt, but you need to grieve that and then move on. It's not fair, and everything in your life is going to be harder because of it, but you have to move past that. Work at improving yourself in every other area of life so that your looks don't become what defines you. If you become a spectacular person in every other area of your life, that's what gives you the best possible chance of attracting a high quality woman into a relationship. Remember, if you want to hear more from me, sign up to my Patreon and you can access all of my exclusive content. This video is brought to you by Here Be Dragons, the story of a man who embarks on a 6-month experiment into the bizarre world of sugar babies. My full review of the book is in the description box below.